Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Invin and today I'm going to be bringing you guys a video on some tips and tricks for wars. Now, a little bit of preface before we get into the video fully here. I am by no means claiming to be the best PvPer in New World, nor am I claiming that our company and kind of war team is the best out there. We've certainly done stuff wrong over the times in terms of strategies that have gone pretty rubbish, but we've also done some that have gone very, very well, and it's through those rubbish ones and those great ones that I can combine the two together. I've watched over all of my videos of these, kind of combined all the things that have gone wrong, what's gone right, what we could have improved on, and today what I've got for you guys is a solid set of tips that are going to help you, whether you're a person that plays in the wars just for fun, whether you're someone who takes it a little bit more seriously and you're kind of in a competitive style guild, or whether you're a company leader and you're making shot calling, because that is what myself and my teammate Dilly, we are the shot callers. So I've got a few kind of things on there, especially if you're trying to get into shot calling a little bit in New World. Some little basic pointers that could help you out in getting started there as well, because that's kind of where I've got the most experience. Now, a few other little things I wanted to say just before we kind of jump fully into this video. Obviously, everyone that kind of plays this game right now knows that we are experiencing a decent amount of lag. Unfortunately, it has to be said, you know, New World are doing a fantastic job of trying to keep up with updates, but the wars are horrendous. They are really, really laggy, and there is a lot of freezing. There's a lot of things that kind of don't go according to plan because of that, and obviously there is some that don't do that, and they are fantastic. They're really, really fun, and my overall opinion on the wars is that I absolutely love them. But I really, really do hope that they get fixed very, very soon. Now, with that being said, these tips are going to kind of gravitate around the fact that we're going to expect there to be no lag going forward. And so I'm going to base these tips basically off what we could be doing and what we would be doing in ideal situations, so that when you guys have got kind of that opportunity to get these kind of strategies and execute them well, that is when you can use them. So the first thing here, obviously, kind of before we get into it fully, is actually just going to be about morale and keeping team morale up, especially if you're on a leader side of things, or you're a shot caller, or even just if you're in party chat using the in-game comms. Try and keep one another, you know, kind of in the fight. Don't let people get disheartened, because there is a lot of things that can go wrong in a war, even if you are the world's best PvP player. I know some of my very top PvP players do things wrong in wars. They go down and they're out for 40 seconds and they're really annoyed, but you just say, look, it doesn't matter, we get back on with it. So trying to keep that positive attitude, and more importantly, bouncing back when you do actually get a loss, because that is honestly half the fun. Once you learn to accept in New World that you will get territories and you will lose territories. We've done this multiple times. You know, we've won on both attacking and defending, and we've lost on both attacking and defending, and that is part of the fun. So once you learn to accept that, and that's just the nature of the game, especially if this is kind of one of your first MMOs or one of your first war type environments in an MMO, then you're going to have a lot more fun, and that is something which is crucial. It's fun either way, and you've got to make sure it's fun either way, making sure you have the most fun, and that is what today's video is going to aim to help you do. So without further ado, we're going to jump into the full tips now with all those prefaces and kind of things in mind. And the first thing here is going to be actually using a setup that makes sense. So what do I mean by this? Well, there is a few setups, particularly on the battlefield, which are going to really, really mess you up during wars, and kind of going to go over a general kind of overview of what is good to use generally for each class in a war, to help some of you guys out, particularly if you are struggling, especially if you're on a lower pop server and you're getting picked for wars, but you've not necessarily got the comms from the leader, or it's kind of a bit of a free-for-all, which I know some servers are. Our one particularly is very, very sweaty, so we've had a lot of wars where we've had to really hit the nail on the head, and getting these classes down to a T is really, really important. So if you are playing as a melee role, 9 times out of 10, you will want to be in heavy, particularly if you're a melee role that is going to be pushing the point. Every melee that's going to be on the point, or every player that's going to be on the point, should be in heavy armor, because without that you can get one-shotted with siege. You can even still get one-shotted by siege when it is leveled up in heavy armor, so do bear that in mind. It's not a fail-safe, but it does significantly improve your chances. Unless you get direct hit, the chances are you'll be alive, you can probably get into a heal, and you can stay in the fight and help your team for longer. In my personal roster, we say to every melee player and every kind of tank, you must be in heavy armor. Now, healers, it's kind of up to you. I've had my guys try kind of both things, so healing can either be done in heavy or in light, but obviously when you do get that dodge, you've got that bonus to healing, and it gives you a little bit more maneuverability. And something I really like my healers and ranged DPS guys to be doing is actually rotating around and not staying static, and that's how it helps us capture a lot of points, because we're spread out more, and that's a really, really good thing to do. If they are in heavy armor, this can be pretty much negatively impacted by that because you're not able to move around as nimbly. So it's kind of a toss-up between whether you want them to play more of a paladin healer build or whether you want them to play a more pure focus healer from a distance type build. But on that respect as well, they've also got to make sure they're not getting attacked from the backline. So it's kind of a toss-up there, kind of up to yourselves and your leaders what you want to do, but both options do work. It doesn't make too much of an impact to the actual healing efficacy, but it is kind of more of a preference choice more than anything with that one. In terms of range DPS, like I touched on there, you do kind of want to make sure that you're in the mix. I would certainly recommend that light armor for that extra 20% damage there, because you guys are going to be the ones that are dealing the most damage on the battlefield. You're going to be really raining down some heavy hitting, and that is what is going to be super important. So making sure that you are in a armor set that allows you to have the most of your primary stat to scale your damage the most and be the most nimble, and of course get the 20% bonus damage is kind of a no-brainer. Now there is some opportunities for melees being in kind of heavy armor, but I would certainly recommend that for melee and range guys. Definitely stick to your medium or your light. Now in terms of kind of tanks, obviously you want your main tanks. Heavy armor's a no-brainer for tanks, right? But sword and shield's a great combo. I really like to pair my tanks with the Warhammer with this because it's got a lot of CC ability. And for those of you that don't already know, the Warhammer, when you block with it, it has the same block efficacy as the sword and shield. In other words, you can block the same amount of damage. Now, that being said, obviously there is some perks and some attributes with the sword and the shield which make that kind of significantly more superior to any other weapon for blocking, and that is kind of the point. But it is still very good to use the Warhammer, and you've got the CC capacity with that as well, so you can do some really good things from there on in. You should also make sure that you've got a team that kind of targets the backline, and that should be either melee DPS with a healer or kind of like a couple of tanks and a few melee DPS. That would be where those guys would fit in. And finally, moving on with your tanks there as well, the other option which is really kind of seeing a rise into the meta here, particularly from a lot of the wars that we've been fighting in with some really high level players, is actually going to be the paladin build. Bringing out someone either with a sword and a shield and a life staff, or kind of like your Great Axe life staff, Warhammer life staff, making sure that you've got those amber gems on, so that it means your secondary weapon, whichever it is with the light staff, you kind of maybe have a Great Axe and you put the amber gem on. That means it scales off focus more than anything else, which can bring the damage right up there. Gives you a bit of CC capacity with whichever weapon you choose. And of course, the main thing is you can heal yourself, you can heal others. You're going to be doing a lot of damage with the life staff, and the main stat focus there should be on focus. So focus and then constitution. So that's going to be a really helpful build to have in the mix. You want at least 4 or 5 of them. Most successfully, we've seen teams that are pushing those guys onto the point as kind of tank hybrid healers that are healing on the point and fighting on the point with those enemies, which is a really good suggestion. And we're going to start implementing that soon, so it's going to be a very good thing to use. Another thing to bear in mind when you are in the wars here is actually using and making the most of the consumables and the buyables within the war. Now this ranges from your siege weapons, so you've got your fire launcher, you've got your cannon, and you've got your repeater. Now these can be bought by both teams. Obviously on the siege team that's defending, it will be on the castle walls, and the team that's attacking, you guys have them on the ground. But the advantage that the attacking team has is that you can rebuy your siege up until the deployable limit, obviously, and put that down every single time. If you're inside the castle walls, I don't know if it's bugged for us or whatever, but we have not been able to replace any siege there, so I think it must be the case that you can't do that. So obviously attacking that siege when you are attacking against the fort is really vital, and that is going to be something that's going to be massively beneficial to you, is getting the enemy siege down. So you always want to focus on that. But on top of that, something which can really help is obviously haste potions, so you are able to absolutely flurry towards the enemies, call some big rotates where people are able to come around the side or go across to different zones and really reposition very quickly. And I personally like to use the haste potions when I've got a team of 4 or 5, and I'll say in my group, push out the cannons, we'll haste potion, run around the back, hit all the cannons, destroy them with the support from some ranged DPS, and it's going to be really effective at just taking out some of those siege before they manage to plow everybody that is on the point, because that's when they start to get a bit of a cluster going on and start to do massive AoE damage and big damage burst to those tanks, which is not what you want at all. Also, another Bible thing that's going to be really good to use is the Inferno traps. Personally, again, we like to use these as either defending the point if we are on defense, or if we're on attacking, we kind of like to put these as like a flank defense almost, so that players have to push round into them if they want to get to our back line. That gives kind of our bruiser style players, so those heavy armor, hammer and great axe players, chance to rotate around and actually go ahead and then kill some of those enemy players that are pushing the backline whilst they're at half HP from the traps and such. So it's a really, really good plan. So certainly something you should watch out for there. Now, when you are actually pushing a point, it's wise to always push through the point into the enemy backline, gain a bit of ground before you just have people sat on the point like sitting ducks. Way too many teams kind of sit themselves on the point, and we did this initially as well. And we kind of sat there, waited for damage to come our way and hoping we'd cap it. Instead, now what we started to do is kind of push out, attack kind of enemy backlines, enemy people that are kind of around the point, you know, just kind of hiding there waiting to do a bit of damage. Attack those guys first, clear a few kills, get people on the respawn timers, and then actually go back onto it. Because if you didn't know, when you are defending, you are able to spawn on the point currently at the time of recording this video, which is October 19th, 2021, you are able to spawn on the point even if it is being conflicted or contested at the time, which means you've basically got infinite respawns there. Every 30 seconds you get a new wave of players coming to help out, so you really need to get those respawn timers going as quick as possible so you can get as much progress before you have to re-kill them. And if you do actually have enough players there, you can cap it before that first respawn timer comes around, which again obviously is optimal if you are trying to get the fastest cap possible there. Now, I've talked a lot about what happens on the open air battlefield, as it were, kind of, you know, the 3 flags that are outside, but actually once you get into the fort, there's a lot of tactics which need to be covered as well. Some of these are going to be kind of going up to the battlements and disrupting enemy healers or ranged DPS, and that's on either team, because the defending team may put people up around the top there, but also the attacking team can kind of stack their players up there and get some really good damage onto the point, disrupt enemy spawns, all that kind of stuff. So then whichever team you run, you're going to want to make sure you take control of those battlements, or at least the majority of them. Even if there's a couple of players laying about, you want to get the majority of them down, especially any healers and any kind of fire staff ice gauntlet users, as they're going to be doing a lot of AoE down on the point. Now, obviously, at the time of making this video as well, we do still have the stacking issue, or the stacking change, whatever it turns out to be with AoEs, but let's say going forward this has been resolved. It's going to be crucial to get those AoE casters out of the way so that they're not doing a ton of damage to any tanks and melees that are on the point, sitting ducks, as it were, for these AoE attacks and heals. On top of this, you are able to repair your gates. So if you take the materials from the actual siege workshop, you are able to repair the gates even when they've been broken down, which is a really, really cool feature. You can go up there, repair the gate, and rebuild it, so they have to then knock it down again. Now, they can do this very easily, but it just kind of adds a little bit of time delay, and obviously it does cost a lot of points, so it's not something you can do often. But especially before they break in, you can kind of try and rebuild these gates when they are hitting the doors, especially if they're not using the powder kegs. And if you are attacking, make sure you use the powder kegs. You only need 2 or 3 and it blows up the doors entirely. You can push straight through, funnel yourselves into the base. And what I like to do once I'm inside is have a siege team that puts the cannons and the fire launchers on the door that we've breached, push our actual squad from another side, get them all pushing through to drag the enemy's attention, and then hit them in the back with the siege as well, as that does a real big amount of damage and can be something which kind of sandwiches the enemy on their own point, puts a load of them on respawn timers, and then you hop on the point, cap that really quickly, and the fort is yours. Now, one crucial thing that you do need to note when you go into the fort, I would always send someone with a large amount of HP or heavy armor in first, as that is going to be beneficial to your team. They're going to be able to trigger most of the inferno traps and kind of fire traps that they have down. As well as this, they're going to get targeted by a lot of AoE, so if they're high resistance with the healers backing them up, they're going to be able to survive a long time, trigger all of that stuff, draw out a lot of cooldowns from the enemies, and then the rest of your team can push if those 5 tanks have maybe pushed through. So that's a really good strategy that you can use to push it. If you are defending, make sure you hold off on cooldowns until the enemies have kind of grouped up, and if they're all bombarding through the gate together, it's a really, really good opportunity to just throw down some AoE damage, throw down some stuns, and get most of them stuck in a very good chokehold as they come through there, where you can get a lot of damage out very, very quickly. Now, obviously, there's tons and tons of things you can do in terms of formation, in terms of composition of teams, so I'm not going to go too much in depth into that in this video today, but in the future, when I've kind of fine-tuned my own setup, I might bring you guys an update video on that, kind of suggesting what I do and what, you know, giving a video evidence like this is how it works, because I think that'd be cool and beneficial. But right now, there's a lot of fine-tuning to do. There's a lot of things that you could be doing that might be working for you. So let me know down below in the comments if you've got any war suggestions, any composition suggestions, anything that you've found that works really well for you in the comments down below. And other than that, that's going to be it for today's video, guys. So hopefully you have enjoyed. If you have, please do be sure to leave a like on today's video. If you are new here to the channel and you'd like to see more New World content, then please do drop a subscribe down below. Join the community here. We'd love to have you. Make sure you've got the notification bells on so that you don't miss out, because I do upload every single day. So it'd be amazing to have you guys here as part of that. If you want to join my Discord community, the link for that is in the description and the comments as always. And if you'd like to follow me on Twitter and Twitch, those links will be down below as well. Other than that, guys, as always, thank you very much for watching. Take care and peace.